Hey everybody, this is Rob, the host from The Worst Movie Ever Made, speaking from beyond the grave. No, I'm just kidding. I'm very much alive. I just couldn't make it to this episode. I am very much dead inside. I had an emergency, a family butt-related emergency with butts. It involved butts. I know Bob's been trying to usurp me since day one. He's going to try sweeping in and doing that. But as senior executive producer of The Worst Movie Ever Made, I just wanted to say, you think that I'll never work in this town again, but you got to realize I'm the one writing the checks, baby. But, they're going to say a lot of shit about me that's probably not true. Anything that paints me in a negative light throughout this episode is categorically a lie. Anything that paints me in a somewhat positive light is probably also a lie. So I'm just going to turn it over to Chris and Bob, and then I'll see you guys next week. I did meet up with the sponsors, Hot Dogs at 3 a.m., and big things coming, guys. I'll see you soon.
Hello and welcome to The Worst Movie Ever Made, an experimental movie podcast designed with one thing in mind, to find the worst movie ever made. I'm your host, Chris Achman. I'm joined by my co-host and fellow mad scientist, Bob Hassick. And we're not sure what happened to Rob. Probably has something to do with his diet. But I don't know. This movie also had an effect on me, so I don't feel possessed. But we're free to speculate, Bob. What do you think happened to Rob?
I mean, The Exorcist has lore surrounding it that there could be some certain curse going on with Rob. I don't know if the curse has anything to do with hot dogs at 3 a.m, because that's a curse in and of itself. But,
It is.
But yeah, I don't know how Rob's doing, but I know that this movie is as near perfect as a film can be, even a scary one. So I'm gonna say that's why we're doing this. It's a good movie week.
I completely agree. It is good movie week, and this movie is, I don't know, after Jaws, maybe my second favorite movie, which is odd that I've got two 70s flicks as my top two, but it's just true. It's a golden era.
That's definitely not odd. This is definitely a good era for film, especially genre producing films.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, guess what? We get to skip all of Rob's dumb YouTube comments this week.
That's so dumb. I agree.
All right, test number one. The best of its kind.
The Best Movie Ever Made presents the best of its kind.
All right, The Thing. Do you know this? Okay, so this is 2011, not the 82 Kurt Russell.
Oh shit. Okay.
Which I haven't seen.
I saw the opening for it and I immediately turned it off because I realized it wasn't the original and they did a poor job at everything.
Well, I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but I'm going to explain to you who he is if you don't already know. Adewale Akinyiwa Agbaja, or something to that effect. He is Simon Adebisi in Oz. He's in Game of Thrones for a hot second.
Okay.
You would recognize him. He's a very intimidating looking man. He's a super muscly dude, and everything he's in, he's fucking awesome. However, maybe not this one, because 34%.
Yes.
Scream with Nev Campbell.
Okay.
A 76. I don't hate that movie, but I feel like a lot of the reason for that is nostalgia.
I'm surprised at 76. People generally think of that movie as like one of the best of its kind.
It's good. I mean, I feel like the opening sequence was the entire premise for the movie, and then they had to build a movie after the opening sequence.
Well, when I worked at a video store back in the 90s, a very elderly woman came in, probably in her 80s, and she said she loved mystery movies that had like a whodunit kind of feel. So I recommended Scream.
Yeah,
and
nice.
She came back the next day, like slammed on the counter. She's like, "This is a slasher movie. That's not what I wanted.
This is smut."
But I have a fond memory of that interaction because she's like, she told her how it was. I liked it.
Yeah, well, that's cool that she came in with an attitude. That's a funny story. 76 there. Exorcist 2. Linda Blair is in it.
The Heretic, yes.
Yes, yeah, you're right. 10%.
Oh shit.
So apparently it's really bad. Dominion looks like a shitty movie with Stellan Skarsgård. I've never seen it. I don't really know what it is. It got a 29%.
Never heard of it.
Okay. And then Sleepy Hollow with Johnny Depp.
I saw it in the theater.
Did you like it?
I liked it enough. Yes.
Yeah, well, liked it enough is about right at a 70%.
I would give it 70% as well.
Okay. Yeah, that works. I cannot give it a proper rating because I haven't seen it since I was like 12.
Oh, okay.
So I really don't know if it's any good. What do you think The Exorcist got?
I'm going to guess an 88.
That's a good guess. I think it deserves an 88 or higher. And it came in with an 84. The audience score, however, was an 87. So you're right on the money with the rest of the audience.
Yeah, which makes sense. We are the audience.
The only thing that really pisses me off, and don't read into this because certain implications will follow, but the movies that I was looking at that are under the suggested to us were shitty horror movies that had insanely good ratings. And I was like, this is not fair. How do you give The Exorcist an 84 and you give like Nightmare on Elm Street like a 96 or some shit, you know?
I agree, and I almost don't consider this a horror movie. It's horrifying at times, but this is really I don't know. It's just a good film.
It's a great film. I agree.
Yeah. I consider it a good story, a good adaptation. That's what I'll call it. I'll call it a novel adaptation.
And it is. I almost wrote the guy's name down because he was in the credits. His name is funny. The author of the book that this was an interpretation.
William Peter Blatty.
Blatty, that's right.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was funny enough, but it did just get a giggle out of me. So maybe
I should have made the list.
But yeah, I mean, I wrote it in the catch-all, but I'll just say it now. It's an amazing slow burn. Because you're introduced to the characters. They keep it lively enough that you're interested. And then they start to introduce the horror a little bit at a time, which we'll get into. I don't want to ruin now.
I mean, I've seen much slower. I think this really, the pacing was just right on.
Yeah, agreed. It's well, I have a couple of columns. So it's not 100, I guess, for me.
All right.
But we'll talk about it. The average for all those movies was a 43.8. Not that it matters too much, but that's a plus 40.2 in best of its kind, which makes sense to me.
That makes sense. Yeah.
All right. For now, we're going to throw it to test number 2. Limerick version, go figure. We have to after a full season of limericks, right? And Ain't That a Pitch?
The best movie ever made presents the plot pitch.
All right. Which of the two of us goes first? Because Rob decided he had too many hot dogs to participate.
I'll go first since you just talked. Okay, so limerick version of Exorcist. There once was a book about possession. Controversy ensued. There was no question. The priest character had to be believable, and the story had to be conceivable. Thankfully, they used the director of The French Connection.
Wow, masterfully done. This movie deserved a great pitch, and you gave it. You win, okay? Because neither of us has the majority. I'll go, but you win.
But I haven't heard yours. I might argue double.
Well, you're not going to, or at least I hope you don't. Ready?
Ready.
This movie came out in 1973, and still it scares the hell out of me. Whatever you do, avoid Pazuzu. He'll make you puke a gallon of peas.
Oh, that's really good, though. That's really good.
I mean, yours is way better.
Well, since the higher rating for Ain't That a Pitch gives the worst movie a bad rating.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so this I don't know how to correct this. I'm just gonna say we both win, and
all right, we both win. I like that. There is no.
It gets 10 stars.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I mean, well, we don't have a tiebreaker, unfortunately. Since we started this podcast a long time ago, we've always talked about having a third host. You and me, but we've just never had the right guy, Bob. We've just never found the right guy to be the third host of the podcast.
You know, I always thought of another guy with like a rhyming name of one of ours, but I think that'd be a horrible idea.
Yeah, no, I like the kitsch. I like the kitsch there.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
like well, what would the name be? Like
Frisch or
yeah, Frisch, Chris, Frisch, and Bob. I like that. All right, let's throw it to test number 3. The best dialogue.
The best movie ever made presents the best dialogue.
You didn't see that off screen, but I just did a really funny thing with my fingers. All right, all right, we're gonna start here. We're doing 10, and this might be the last time. Let that be a little scary foreshadowing for you, the audience.
an omen, so to speak.
Yeah. All right, this is Chris, which is Mrs. McNeil, the lead actress of the film, I suppose you can say. It's really her story as much as Linda Blair's or Karis's. Chris to Reagan. They're downstairs in the basement, and like I am right now, creepy. And they've got the Ouija board out. And Chris says to Reagan, "You need 2 people to play," and Reagan says, "No, you don't," and blah blah blah. And then the Ouija piece like moves on the board. It looks almost like Reagan could have thrown it with her fingers at her mom, out of anger. And Chris says, "You really don't want me to play, huh?" And then Reagan says, "No, I do. Captain Howdy says no." And this is the point where I would be like, there's a problem here. I guess kids can have, invisible friends, sure, pretend friends. But if Captain Howdy moved the piece on the board and then told me no, I think I'd be a little freaked out.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Especially if my daughter seemed to know a little more about, I don't know, the workings of the board than I would imagine she would.
Then she ought to. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Number 9, this is Karis, right? He's talking to Father Muir, and this is towards the very end, just before the exorcism, and he says, "Do you want to know the background of the case first, Father?" And Mirren says, "Why?" Which I think is a poetic way of saying that I don't know. There's a lot of ways to interpret that, and that's why I love the line. But I think the first thing that comes to mind is, why would Mirren want to know who this girl is that he's trying to save? It might affect his performance.
Yeah, I think that as well. I also think, like I know you're leading into, it just goes to the point of the larger issue, which is the possession. Like, who cares? Let's just get this over with.
Yeah, let's get to it. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's another way of thinking about it. And I had another, but I don't want to waste time. We'll cut to the chase. All right, here we go. There's no way to do this movie and not be crass.
Yeah,
not use foul language. So I apologize to those sensitive in our audience. But you're listening to a podcast about The Exorcist, so fuck you and fuck Rob. Here's number 8. The doctor she's speaking to, I didn't care to find his name because who really cares? He does a great job, though. Just to back all the actors in this movie, I couldn't find anybody I was annoyed with.
Right.
The doctor's talking about how Reagan has an explicit vocabulary, yeah?
Yeah.
And the mother, Mrs. McNeil, Chris, needs to know what she said. Just has to know. So she continues to pry. And the doctor says, "She advised me to keep my fingers away from her goddamn cunt." And at this point, I've seen this movie 7 times, probably, maybe 10. I don't know. And my jaw hit the floor again. Like, holy shit. It's so... There are moments in this movie that are just so shocking, that they go there. They really go there. And I love that they do it.
I think that speaks to the era as well. Like you talked about, like 73, like Jesus Christ. Nobody was doing, I mean, people were doing shit like this back then, but it was still, for a mainstream movie, it was pretty shocking.
Yeah, for me, it was shocking even now, because you're just not going to hear that unless it's like a Hostel, like a really, really out there, like Terrifier 2. You're probably not going to hear language like that because the mainstream audience doesn't want to hear it, which is why there was a lot of controversy around this movie. But if you want to sell, this is one of the reasons that people really felt like there was something going on in the movie. If you really want to believe the possession, a demon is going to say some fucked up stuff, right?
Right.
All right, we're going to throw out to our first clip of the day, and this one is called Faith.
It's my mother, Tom. She's alone. I never should have left her. At least in New York, I'd be near her and be close to her.
I could see about a transfer, Damien.
I need reassignment, Tom. I want out of this job. It's wrong. It's no good.
You're the best we've got.
Am I really? It's more than psychiatry, and you know that, Tom. Some of their problems come down to faith, their vocation, the meaning of their lives, and I can't cut it anymore. I need out. I'm unfit. I think I've lost my faith, Tom.
Hello? Yes, this is Mrs. McNeil.
Okay, that's Father Karras talking to the guy I mentioned before. I also don't remember his name. I don't suppose you do.
I know the actor's name. I can't think of the character's name.
He's the elder counselor at the college, I think.
It's Max von Sydow. I just don't know his character name.
Oh, it is? I thought it was the other guy. No, it's not Max von Sydow. It's the other elderly. It's the guy who runs the college.
Right. The other priest. Yeah. I got you.
Yeah. And so Karras is trying to get out of his position, as you just heard, because he feels that he's lost his faith, which is kind of the linchpin to this entire movie, right?
Right.
It ties in so deeply. It's such a well weaved through line that you debate whether or not the demon was able to possess Linda Blair's Reagan in the first place, because when Chris McNeil is at the doctor, she mentions how they don't have any faith.
Right.
So the Father Karras loses his faith. This is his trial, so to speak. It's a very poetic setup. A priest who is feeling like he's losing his faith is the perfect person to be tasked with such a taxing trial.
Yes. I just want to point out, this is about the time of the show, then Rob would have fucked up some kind of the audio. I just,
Yeah.
it
You know what it is? It's the hot dog fingers. It's the ballpark Frank digits that are so slippery. I think he accidentally right clicks instead of clicks normally.
Probably.
You got to lick those fingers, Rob. Number 6. I'm calling this Pazuzu and not Reagan, right? Because it's the demon speaking through Reagan.
Right.
He says, "Your mother sucks cocks in hell, Karras." There's another one. It's kind of funny. I don't know.
That was actually I forget which one of my brother's friends used to always say that, because my brother was 3 years older than I was.
Yeah.
And all his friends were older, and I used to remember the line, "Your mother sucks dog dicks in hell," and I think he just added the dog part.
Yeah, he was ad-libbing.
So in my head, that's what I heard in the movie. I'm like, they edit that? Is that the director's cut? What am I hearing? and here is just, a friend of a friend just embellished.
Yeah, sure. All right, number 5. This is Lieutenant Kinderman. This is the guy that is the detective I was talking about. But no, I wasn't talking about earlier. I like him. I like Lieutenant Kinderman.
Yeah.
He's asking if Reagan. He's asking if Reagan saw the murder. And he wants Chris McNeil to go up and ask at some point. He's not pressing it because he knows that Reagan is sick, but she's like, okay, if you think it'll help. And he says, if certain British doctors didn't ask, what is this fungus, we wouldn't today have penicillin. Which, I just really like that line. It's well written and makes the point, that
I like it. I agree. And it really does say everything that needs to be said in a very succinct line.
Yeah, that's exactly why it's such good writing. It's succinct. It gets the point across, and it's clever.
is something Rob would never be good at. I mean, I know he's a writer. I hate to keep going back to this point, but he's a writer, but he would never write something like that ever.
No, he wouldn't. That's true.
He doesn't have it in him.
No, it would be kind of like it would be too funny. Like if Rob wrote it, you'd be like, man, that's a corn dog of a statement.
Back to the hot dogs. What do you know?
Yeah, I'm trying to. That's a through line I'm trying to weave, as you've noticed. Number 4, we're going back to our pal Pazuzu.
Right.
And I think this is Karis's first meeting with Pazuzu, and Pazuzu says, "Your mother is in here with us, Karis. Would you like to leave a message?" Which would probably have me shaking in my boots, and that's psychological warfare right off the bat.
Well, right, and also isn't that the first time he even meets Reagan? So
Yes.
So he didn't know that she knew who he was, and it just it brings in a certain level of creep that it's hard to get these days. Like that's just they built the story in a slow way, just to the right point when you knew that she didn't know who he was, but you knew who he was, and it was perfect. His mother,
no, I
all that
agree.
stuff, absolutely
So
perfect.
you knew that she must have the demonic possession issue. I mean, not that it wasn't already obvious. Like, we know that.
Right.
But Karis must be turned on to that because he's like, what? How does she even know that my mother is deceased? Which is the point that he asks Chris McNeil on his way out if she knew that his mother had died recently, and McNeil says no, and then he's like, all right, maybe I will go talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Maybe I will investigate this a little further. Okay. This is number 3. It's another audio clop. It's not a clop, I promise. It's a clip.
Not a clop.
No, God forbid. We would never bring clops onto the show. Like, we would never ask the audience to endure a clop. This one's called The Deceased. Take it away, Rob.
No, Carl, we're fine, thank you. It's all right, Carl. Why are you asking all this?
It's strange. The deceased comes to visit, stays only 20 minutes, and leaves all alone a very sick girl. And speaking plainly, Mrs. McNeil, it isn't likely he would fall from a window. Besides, a fall wouldn't do to his neck what we found, except maybe one chance in 1,000. Now, my hunch, my opinion, he was killed by a very powerful man, point 1. And the fracturing of his skull, point 2, plus the various other things we mentioned, would make it very probable, not certain, that the deceased was killed and then pushed from your daughter's window. But nobody was in the room except your daughter, so how can this be?
Okay, so this is Lieutenant Kinderman talking to Chris McNeil again. Yeah. I love how he is talking about Burke Denning's death and how illogical it is, how there are such large loopholes that he's saying he's not necessarily insinuating that McNeil has anything to do with it, but he is saying essentially, I know for certain, he says probable, not certain, but he's like, it happened here. That a powerful man, as he said, broke his neck and threw him out the window. He says, something to the effect of like, Burke Dennings would never leave a sick girl alone. He wouldn't show up here and stay for 20 minutes and then leave completely plastered and fall down the stairs.
You mentioned a character that didn't annoy you. He annoyed me a little bit, but at the same time, his character was just right for what they wanted.
He was chewing a little bit. He was definitely chewing on his lines. Like that probable statement is probably the time where he veered furthest away from the way that a detective would actually act.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the guy who died.
Oh, Burke. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay,
Burke,
good.
yeah.
Because I really liked Kinderman, but I was
No,
with
I like
you.
Kinderman.
Yeah, because when he's like, it's I'm not certain, but it's probable, kind of,
Oh, right. No.
some of the words were a little peanut buttery, but I didn't mind it. But yeah, Burke acting drunk is really, that's tough.
Yeah.
Acting drunk is just hard for people to do, I think.
It is.
But he didn't do it well. And there were times like when it almost became like a Monty Python skit when the butler choked Burke in the kitchen.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of. Like he played it okay. It was starting to get a little bit too much, but at the same time, they had to make sure they painted that character as a completely unreliable buffoon. So, if you leave him alone with a girl, did he really get possessed and throw out the window, or did he, fall out?
Yeah, no, I don't know for sure, but my take was that Pazuzu, alone with Burke, decided to snap his neck and then throw him out the window.
Totally.
Not that he was ever possessed himself, but the very powerful man statement was like, she has the strength of a demon to snap his neck that way.
Right.
But yeah, and then of course McNeil has to play coy the whole time and really keep herself from bursting in tears when she realizes that though her daughter may not be in control of her body, she technically murdered someone.
Yeah.
And one of her best friends at that. So as soon as Lieutenant Kinderman leaves the house, Chris McNeil kind of breaks apart because she couldn't hold the act anymore. And I love the acting, but the dialogue between the two, as you just heard, was superb. Really, really well written.
Yep.
Okay, number 2, we're going back to our old pal Pazuzu. This is I don't think that this is their first meeting, Karras and Pazuzu. I think this is the second where he brings some recording equipment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Pazuzu says, "What an excellent day for an exorcism." Karras says back, "You'd like that?" And Pazuzu says, "Immensely. It would bring us together." Karras says, "You and Reagan," which is what the audience is thinking.
Yeah.
That Pazuzu is thinking. And then Pazuzu says, "You and us." As if he already owns Reagan, which is terrifying. And as in, I'm going to murder you during this exorcism.
Yeah.
Really terrifying stuff. I've got some notes on the voice actor, by the way, on something I heard on a podcast one time. But I won't bring that up in case it's in fact or no fact, because I'm really going to need my wits about me, because a certain third co-host bailed on me, so my chances are 20% instead of 40%.
No, the voice actress is not in fact no fact.
Okay, well, it's a woman voice actor who smoked like 2 packs of cigarettes a day and drank like a liter of whiskey every single day.
I remember that I heard a podcast also. She must I can't imagine we listened to the same one, but I heard her talk about how her voice was like never the same after that.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, you can't do that to yourself, and I mean that is like a crash course on destroying your throat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to call back to that quotes I just gave you.
Nice.
All right, let's go to our number 1 clip after the drum roll. This one's called Despair.
Why this girl doesn't make sense.
I think the point is to make us despair. To see ourselves as animal and ugly. To reject the possibility that God could love us.
Okay, could you tie a bow on the idea behind this movie any better than they do here? I'm not sure.
No, they did a really good job. Like, just in general, like every single piece of the movie was so intentional. Like the editing In my opinion, the editing was to the point where all the pieces came together without any missing pieces and without anything being overworn.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and that's why it's so rewatchable. It's a movie I can see over and over and over again and not get sick of, because they don't. There's no point in the movie where I'm like, all right, I can go get like a snack, or I guess I'll just pop on my phone and check Twitter real quick.
Right.
Which is something I've been doing less often anyway. It's just a movie that flows really, really well. From start to finish. But yeah, when Mirren there says that the point is to make us look like animals, make us feel like we're unworthy of God's love. I'm not particularly super religious myself, but the idea behind the material here is just so well backed up by this dialogue that the whole movie, just as a whole, feels like a complete circle when he says that. Yeah,
I agree.
And it just made me feel like, man, this movie is just fucking phenomenal, isn't it? And they could have gone too far and made it cheesy, but Max von Sydow is so good at delivering the lines, and Jason Miller is great in his spot too. We'll get into acting, but just you can't talk about that clip there without talking about how believable they both are.
So much better than The Crow. Just want to say.
So much better than The Crow. Remember the part where he's on the roof and he's like playing what is he playing? Like a big bratwurst? It's a guitar. It's playing a guitar. Yeah, and he's like, it's nonsensical. The whole movie just.
I don't know. I like when I was thinking of picking a good movie. I didn't think of that one, but someone did. I don't know who that would have been. Frisch.
Yeah, weird. Probably a fan suggestion.
Yeah, probably.
Not somebody who really knows anything about movies.
Yeah, a really uninformed fan.
Agreed. Test number 4, the best production.
Hey guys, Rob here from Beyond the Grave. I fucked up again. I did a huge hard drive backup, and here's Charles Mingus instead. All right, here we go. Ready?
Oh, the best production this week is certainly one word: casting. Okay, so director and author, they work together. The Peter Blatty and Friedkin. And they decided to go with lesser known actors against the studio's wishes. Like, so this is the early 70s. The studios were still kind of in charge of things, and they said, we want big name actors, right?
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis was considered for The Kid.
Oh, no kidding.
And because Tony Curtis was a big star.
Sure.
Remember the Willy Wonka movie with Gene Wilder?
Yeah, of course.
The girl who played Violet was considered she was also considered for Reagan because she was already in something.
Yeah, she was tenured, so to speak.
Right. And
to borrow a line from a better version of the movie we watched last week.
Yes. But so a complete unknown was cast as Reagan. And just so you know, also casting made an impact in terms of the original character in the book that was a possessed 12-year-old was actually a boy, not a girl. And the fact that they went with the girl was just brave, because putting a girl through that kind of trauma, I don't know, as an actress, I think
film is terrible.
I think that's pretty brave. So also other leads were similarly cast, even though they weren't famous. So Brando was considered, Nicholson was considered, and the director and writer were like, we don't want this to become a Brando movie. We don't want it to become a Nicholson movie. We want it to be The Exorcist, right? Right. And also, here's something that I was thinking of putting in fact, no fact, but I decided to go against it. 2 of the priests in the movie were actual priests. They weren't actors.
Sorry, man. No worries. Sorry, Bob. 1 sec.
Gotcha.
Okay. Thank you.
A grocery delivery in the middle of a podcast. Wow, well, I'd never. This is Rob again from Beyond the Grave. Ooh. You know, when I run the shift, this stuff never happens. I've never had pizza deliveries mid-podcast at all. My kids have never waken up in the middle of a podcast. I can't think of any other line of work where this is acceptable. Shame on you kids. Shame.
This week is just cursed, Bob.
This week, it's not cursed. It's the a pizza delivery at 3 a.m. That
my wife, I think, forgot that I had a podcast this week and ordered a pea pod. And I was scared out of my mind just now because I just heard somebody do shaving a haircut.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, who the hell is at my door? And so I went to the back door thinking it might be my wife who can't get in for some reason, and there's no one there, so now I'm terrified. And I go to the front door, and there's a pea pod guy telling me that an egg broke and that he's giving me a credit or something, and now I have a bunch of groceries at my front door. And here we are in the middle of a very professional podcast. A very possessed professional podcast.
Considering how much Rob messes up the audio, I think we're actually coming out ahead. So I'm not too concerned.
Hey, this is Rob again from Beyond the Grave. Fuck you, Bob.
Sure.
I agree. I think up to this point it was very smooth, and you can forgive one infraction, especially.
Yeah. So back to best production. Two of the priests were actual priests. They were not actors. We're talking about the priest at the end who he also played piano in that.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw in the credit that it said father or something.
Yes, he was a priest. Actually, he was famous in the story of The Exorcist because he was very critical of the original novel, and he was like famous for coming out about how much he
no kidding
was against the novel, and they ended up casting it.
Wow. I guess if you're offered enough money, you do it, right?
And then you mentioned one of the clips you played where Karras said he lost his faith.
Yes,
that guy was also a real priest. That guy.
I'm not that surprised, to be honest with you.
Right.
Oh, man, this is crazy. I'm lifting groceries into my house while recording the podcast. To the audience, I apologize. This is really funny. I hope you get a laugh out of this. We are a comedy pod, anyway.
We are a comedy pod, and I think it'd be more interesting to see what groceries they are. I feel like it's not groceries. I feel like you're actually a drug mule.
Oh man,
and you're
on me.
You're carrying satchels full of something illegal.
I mean, that is always a possibility. But let me do one of these. Oh no, I can't. Hold on. Yeah. Look at those. Groceries. Actual groceries. Apparently, so from what I hear is if you oh my god, the bag just opened. You've got to be kidding me. All right, why don't we do this? Why don't I say right now that I'm just going to do a 5-second pause and we can get rid of this audio. Rob, go back like 15 seconds and just clip this shit out from here until he's not going to. Anyway, I'm going to give it a 5-second pause.
This is Rob from Beyond the Grave. I'm not cutting this shit out. Bye.
All right. Now, while I carry in the rest of the groceries, hopefully Rob will just get rid of this shit because I'm not privy to even what's next on the podcast.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. What Rob decides to do. I mean, I can only imagine. Maybe Rob will consider this a time to play some of his musical instruments, in an effort to publicize his musical career.
That's a good idea.
Maybe he'll do that.
I think you should do that. You should play this. This is fucking ridiculous. I'm actually really annoyed.
Hey guys, it's Rob from Beyond the Grave again. Woohoo! That's actually Jaco Pastorius on the bass right now. Bob's going to tell a story or an anecdote about driver's education in a second. This episode's possessed. like the movie Repossessed, which I think The Exorcist is a parody of, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to resume the programming. I promise things will get better, everybody. Things will get better.
I'll tell the story from my. Oh my God, the face. Okay, so we took our daughter to get a driver's test last week, and she didn't have her permit, and they wouldn't let her take a test. So I took her back today, and apparently she needed glasses. And the last thing I needed was another wasted trip to the DMV. So I literally saw out the window a Dollar General and ran to the Dollar General, pretending under the ruse that I was going to the car to look for her glasses, bought a pair of reader glasses, and she took the test. And all that effort was not for anything because she fucking failed the test.
That's amazing. That's parenting that I'm not looking forward to, is having to deal with that kind of shit with my teenagers. But hey, you did the good dad thing, and you went and you did the thing, and you got the glasses, and good on you.
I almost hate to consider it a teenage thing because she's 19, which is hardly a teenager, but she is still technically. So you saying that right there made me give her an ounce more of forgiveness.
Okay.
Because she is a kid still.
Well, she's welcome.
Jesus Christ.
All right, so here we go. After I still can't believe that happened.
So best production was casting. Got it.
Yes, which I agree. All right, so I'm gonna do a 5-second thing, and then I'm just gonna continue on the casting real quick.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree that Linda Blair and others who are not known is a super smart idea. It's something that you see people do now. Casting directors, if they want their movie to have extra veracity, will cast people that are unknown. Funny enough, the Blair Witch Project was one of those movies. It's certainly more recent than The Exorcist, where they cast a bunch of unknowns and pretended like the movie was real, and it actually became a sensation.
Yeah,
on that
totally.
fact.
Exactly.
So yeah, great idea casting people who aren't known, and just adds to the effect.
Yeah, I agree. And casting actual priests, genius.
Yeah, agreed. More, believable.
Yep.
All right, test number 5. What's complimentary?
What's complimentary?
And nothing gets me down.
Okay, for me, you've seen The Conjuring and Insidious and more up to date horror movies.
Me personally, no. I've seen some up to date horror movies, but not those specific ones.
Okay, well, watch The Conjuring.
Okay.
The first one at least is very good. The second one's meh. And I think you'll agree. But one of the things that they do in those two movies, specifically Insidious and The Conjuring, is they like to, as an ode to The Exorcist, absolutely, is play the very shrill, high-pitched violin sequence that you hear in the opening of The Exorcist, which immediately makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up.
Yeah.
It's perfect. But then also, you've got the iconic piano score.
Mm-hmm.
Which also ages well, because people still to this day you'll be in the line at the DMV or something, and you'll hear someone's ringtone go off with that, and it turns out to be their mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Number 2, the statue of Pazuzu and the priest, that is Mirren, standing off in Iraq in the beginning.
Yeah.
Just very it cinematically, it's a cool shot. It's it's like a kind of a from under above. We're looking at a priest versus a demon. Already, it's forecasting what you'll see later.
Yeah, lots of good symbolism.
Yes, there is plenty of good symbolism. I said this already, but the unnerving vibe given to you by the slow burn, like you're kind of waiting for something horrifying to happen, but you get to that as the possession becomes more, as it takes, it's in full.
Yeah, they don't make you wait too long. Like right away, Linda Blair's like, I couldn't sleep last night. My bed was shaking. Like just immediately, like they tell you things that are like, without throwing it in your face. It's there.
Yeah, and we mentioned the Ouija piece moving, and then the candle that blows in the attic, and
right.
Then you start to see in the doctors, you start to see the demon face, which
Mm-hmm.
we'll talk about more. How about this one? Boxing, beer drinking, badass brother of the cloth.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's just cool. Father Karras is just a cool character. Number 5, Dr. Demon, Demi Demon, and Demon Domicile. So there's I was just saying, there's demon faces, just flashes, like a single frame.
Yeah.
And that is terrifying. It's almost like they wanted you to wonder whether you saw it in your head.
Oh, exactly. That's exactly what it was.
And that effect is chilling. It's horrifying, and it's one of the things that I remember being most afraid of when I was younger. Like, I don't know how old I was when first I saw The Exorcist, but I remember seeing the demon face just flash, and I was like, was that in the movie, or am I becoming possessed?
Yep, exactly.
Terrifying, and it ages really well.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there are a few of those. There's even one later that we'll talk about. But imagine Mrs. McNeil's mindset. We're parents.
Yep.
I cannot even begin to imagine what it would be like to watch something like this happen to one of your children, and it's really emotionally gripping, and it makes me feel like when she's going for it, it's not an overreaction. She's not really overacting, because your children are what's most important to you in life.
Yeah, exactly.
And watching this happen to your child, I would also be sleepless and screaming at everyone. And I would be a total wreck like she is, and it ages perfectly.
It does.
And finally, before I ask for mentions, perfect practical effects performance. Those guys with the bed and the levitating of both her, the bed, the makeup, all of that included. Somehow they did this head swivel thing. They do the stairs shit. They do all this kind of crazy stuff. For 73, it's aged like fine wine.
Agreed. Yeah, they really pulled together for something that just did not age with its age.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned, you mentioned something just then. I'll come back to it if I think of it.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to mention for something that aged well or complimented the movie?
This is usually the bad taste section.
It is.
I want to say that the really vulgar and offensive, I'm going to put offensive in quotes, things that usually are considered to be offensive and horrifying, just did so well in this movie. They did it with such intention and such specific drive, I guess. It just worked.
It does work.
So you put those lines in any other movie, and it's going to be thought of as pancakes, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But in this case, it worked really well.
Well, the lady at the Blockbuster or whatever disagreed with you. She thought it was pancakes. But no, I get your meaning, and I completely agree. All right, why don't we throw it to fact or no fact?
Hey guys, Rob again from Beyond the Grave. Ooh. So when I did that backup, I got all the good movie bumpers, but I forgot to grab all the classic bumpers. So the best movie ever made presents fact or no fact. Yeah.
Fact or no fact this week for The Exorcist. This is my favorite segment to do for good movies, because I get to read you 4 things that are real and 1 thing that is a lie, and you have to find out which one of them is a lie.
I enjoy this as well.
I love this because you get to learn so many cool things about a very cool movie.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
So we're gonna start with this one. The vomit. You know the scene.
I do.
It was intended to hit Jason Miller, that's the actor, in the chest, but the plastic tubing misfired and hit him in the face instead.
Okay.
Okay, second one. Linda Blair's delivery of her foul-mouthed dialogue was so disturbing that Max von Sydow actually forgot his lines when she was speaking.
Okay.
Okay, the scene where she masturbating with a crucifix.
Yes.
Okay, that was actually greatly toned down from that of the novel. The novel had it much, much worse.
Okay.
Okay, Ellen Burstyn, one of my favorites, that the lead actress.
Yeah.
She received a permanent spinal injury during filming when she was thrown from her daughter.
Okay.
Okay, and then lastly, all of the Iraq footage was on location in Iraq, and they filmed all of it in one single day because the extreme heat was just too much for the crew and the equipment.
Okay.
And those are your 5 facts or no facts.
Okay, so I happen to have a little bit of insight,
Gotcha.
which is good because there's only one of me because somebody else is too busy eating hot dogs. I know that Jason Miller was not expecting to be hit in the face with vomit. I don't know that he was expecting to be hit in the chest with it. I had heard that he didn't know it was coming. That doesn't make sense because his reaction would be even more outrageous if he had been hit by puke in the face, having not known it was coming at all. So I'm going to say that one is true. Linda Blair's delivery being so messed up that Max von Sydow forgets his lines is believable, but I don't know anything about it, so it could be a lie. I don't know about the book, and I really don't know if the crucifix scene was toned down for the movie. I shudder to think what might have happened. I don't really want to think about it. And the fact that I don't want to think about it makes me think that you don't either, and you wouldn't make that up. I think the injury is real. I think that the scene where where McNeil is like backing away from like a dresser or something like that, I think she actually was injured. So I'm going to go that's not it either. The Iraq footage is the other one that I'm not sure of. I don't know if they did that in one day. It's believable because it looks hot as hell. I'm going to go with Blair's delivery made Max von Sydow forget his lines because I think he's such a professional. I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to hope.
Okay. All right, so let's start with what you already knew. You're right. The projectile vomiting was actually one take. They never actually had to redo that one because his reaction was so genuine.
Yeah.
He was expecting it in the chest, got it in the face.
Yes.
And his reaction of shock and disgust while wiping away the vomit is genuine. And he admitted later in an interview that it was like he was very angered by this mistake. And
I had heard that. Yeah.
he was pissed.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny now.
Yeah. I'm gonna just go in order if you don't mind.
No.
On the first day of filming the exorcism sequence, Linda Blair's delivery of her foul-mouthed dialogue was so disturbing that Max von Sydow, being the gentleman that he was actually he forgot his lines.
You know, I thought it was a lie because of the voice actor. I didn't think she did any of her really fucked up stuff because she was too young for them to want her to deliver. But I suppose there were moments where she's like, F me, F me, F me. And it's...
Well, I thought of that also, and I think she did. I mean, her mouth is moving. So I'm thinking she did have to deliver the lines, and then they just put the voice over it.
Yeah, you're probably right. I hadn't.
You know what I mean? I thought of that too when I read that. I'm like, how does that make sense? Because it's not usually her voice, but she still had to say them.
Oh, can we count that as Bob Foolery? Rob, can we count that as Bob Foolery?
Absolutely not, Chris.
I guess not.
Okay. All right. So, though often cited as one of the most shocking scenes in cinema, the crucifix masturbation scene was toned down. In the source material, get this, the scene's much longer, gorier, and sexually explicit, with her suffering a broken nose, butchery of her genitals, and orgasm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I can't
So,
even imagine.
no, that sounds like Hellraiser, but like as intended.
Exactly.
And not what was delivered.
Exactly. And Ellen Burstyn did receive a permanent spinal injury. It's when she was thrown from Reagan. There was a harness that was attached to her. It jerked her away from the bed, and then she fell on her something, and she screamed, and it was real. So yeah, the Iraq footage I made up because there was nothing that when I was researching, there was nothing about that opening footage that was anything of note. And I'm like, that's just fair game for a lie. So I made that up.
Yeah, well, good call, because I believed that. It was one of the three. I had definitely, obviously, gotten rid of the vomit and the injury because I knew them. I didn't want to believe that the toned down nature of the crucifix was true, but yeah, the Blair delivery, I really believed that was the lie because I didn't think she delivered any of those lines in actuality. But you're right, she had to lip them all, so she had to know what she was saying anyway. You're probably right; she probably did say everything that they asked her to say.
Yeah, at least the ones you see her face anyway, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And when he first sees her, I'm pretty sure you can see her mouth move and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Man, how emotionally damaging was this movie to film for Linda Blair, I wonder?
Well, that was the thing they were concerned about. They were concerned that the studio was concerned that a 12-year-old female actress was not going to be able to handle the trauma that was going to come from this role. And I don't know much. I did a dive into this movie, but there was so much more that I just didn't take the time to read. I'm really curious. I'm gonna have to do a little more diving just from my own personal knowledge because it's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz. Like it's one of those like rabbit hole production, stories that there are so many details that are interesting about the making of this movie.
Heck yeah.
Anyway, let's throw it to the catch-all.
Fuck. It's Rob again. Sorry.
All right, I've got a lot to say here, and it's almost entirely complimentary, but I'm going to start with a knock.
Okay.
I feel as though the Iraqi opening could have been cliff noted. I understand that it's important. I know you want to see Max von Sydow and the discovery of the Pazuzu statue and then the debate whether or not he brought it over himself because he's sick to his stomach. And he seems aware of what he's done by digging too greedily and too deep.
Yeah.
And all of that seems important to me, but there's a lot of just him walking around, and I'm like, why am I looking at this like old guy's ass for a couple of minutes while he walks down like an alleyway in Iraq? You know, like we don't need to watch him commute.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, and
it's like 11 minutes long. It probably could have been 5 minutes, and I would have been happy.
I have no defense of it except for the fact that 2001 came out 5 years earlier, and they had that gigantic opening of the monkeys and just kind of moving around, and it was like such a unnecessarily long segment that I have the same criticism of that segment. So it must have been more of an art house thing.
Yeah, probably. It's establishing, right? So I understand its importance, but boy, it seemed like a little much for me. Yeah. Beautiful sets though in Iraq.
Yeah, agreed.
You know, the next thing I wrote down actually is that Indiana Jones archaeology tie back to our last week. Only they do it much better. It's you remember in the first, I believe it's the Raiders of the Lost Ark when they're in the desert, and there's a lot of men using shovels to dig, and it looks like a real archaeological episode playing out in front of you. That's the feel that I got. It felt real. It was like almost like they're on scene, actually watching people dig for actual archaeological finds.
Do you think Indiana Jones borrowed from this? I feel like they must have. It looks so similar.
It looks It looks like such a parallel that it can't be coincidence.
Yeah, it has to be. They have to borrow just the way the light hits and the way the a lot of silhouettes more than actual body shapes. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, no, I do. Because that gives you that super hot desert feel, like the shadows, the contrast of shadow to sand. It demonstrates how blaring the sun is. I keep saying the word Blair accidentally, but it's fine.
Are you possessed?
I'm getting.
Those that can't see, there was a demon face appeared behind Chris, and he sensed it, and then he looked behind him, but he looked at the other side. I think the demon must have tapped him on the one shoulder, but went on the other shoulder. You know, that's like a dad demon or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. I had mentioned before that Mirren was frightened of the statue. I didn't mention that at least I don't think that I did, that he needs medication, like an Iraqi citizen who is serving tea to others, like brings him a tin that almost looks like Altoids, but it's clearly medication.
Yeah,
that he needs. And that had me wondering if he's aware of his accidental demon release at the very least, or if he's aware that he's about to carry it with him overseas, or if Pazuzu is just like kind of a world traveler, you know. Right. I want to know these answers, but I like the vague, like fill in the blank yourself. You know, I
totally agree. Yeah, any movie that trusts the audience enough to interpret on their own, I respect. I like that.
Yeah, agreed. Because I can make a solid decision and live with it there and be happy.
Yeah.
And it is that he released the demon, and it's kind of deciding whether or not it wants an old man or if it just wants to carry with him until it finds something better. Yeah. 3 guys working with hammers in tandem on metal will always be cool.
I guess
that
so.
like ding 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 ding. It's just the coolest thing. The clock stops in the Iraqi like temple that they're in.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is your first glimpse at actual physical manipulation the demon does.
It's such a small thing. The first time I saw this, I was pretty young, and that freaked me the freak out. Like when I saw that, I thought, this is it. I'm scared now.
Yeah, already scared. Yeah.
Yep.
The house is creepy, but it's not overboard creepy.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. McNeil's movie I mentioned before, not really, but it's called Crash Course.
Yeah.
Which it takes place at a college, the college that Karras is these psychology. What is he? The therapist?
Yeah, something like that. Psychologist.
Priest. Yeah. And I thought that's actually a pretty good name for whatever the movie is to you. It's a good name, Crash Course, for a college student movie. Are Ouija boards scary?
I'm gonna say no. That's just me.
Well, I'm never awake at like the witching hour where I'd be using a Ouija board or eating microwave hot dogs. So, I don't really know. Don't be screaming at her father's assistant about her lack of interest with your daughter at home, like his lack of interest, rather. So I should explain that. Chris McNeil is screaming to the operator that she doesn't care that he's not available to talk on the phone. He doesn't want to. This is Reagan's father. She's trying to get a hold of him.
Right.
Reagan's birthday.
Right.
He's not interested in talking to his daughter. It's fucked up. I get it, but don't scream that down the hall where your daughter is like drawing.
I totally agree. And I when I watched this again, I forgot when I started watching it, was the father dead? Was the father absent, or was the father like just separated? And that scene helped me understand the relationship better. So I get it. Uh I get why they made that choice.
Mhm.
Because it just gave some emotion and some history behind the family.
I understand the scene. I don't appreciate that she was unaware that her daughter was listening. You know, I feel like I would know.
Well, she is a Hollywood type. You know what they say.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know.
It's all action. And it's better to ask for forgiveness than beg for permission.
Is that it?
I don't know. My bed was shaking. That should concern you as a parent.
Yeah.
If you don't think that your daughter is a liar.
Right, exactly.
Addicts, scary, period. This is not a Ouija board question. Addicts are just scary.
Always.
I don't care who disagrees. If you think you're a tough guy, go up in your attic and pretend to yourself like you can last a full minute by yourself in the dark, because you can't.
Yeah, no phone. No phone allowed.
Speaking of the attic, when the candle flame goes bonkers, I'm, as a parent, officially very concerned.
Oh yeah, very much.
You know, there's rats in the attic. Oh no, there's not rats. There's rat traps. No rats. Okay, maybe they're smart enough to not go there. But your Carl guy is insisting that there is no rat population in your attic, but you keep hearing scattering up there anyway. And then you go up there, the rat traps are empty, and then your candle goes like a fucking bonfire. And your daughter says the bed's shaking. You're feeling weird about the Ouija board. You know, it's time to panic for me.
Yeah, I don't care if this is 73. Ghost stories have been around longer than 1973. So it's not like you see all these things happen and think, well, I haven't seen movies about this yet, so I don't know what this is. You'd be freaked out.
I think so. The doctor's okay. So this is one of those minute details. It's like kind of when the clock stops in the temple. The doctor's pen runs out of ink, so he goes to his shirt pocket for a new one and then writes the prescription for another one. And I just loved it. It's one of those minute details that was absolutely planned to look like something that might happen incidentally, and it's that trivial nature that makes it real.
It's the intention of every single detail that I like.
Same here. Statue in the church is tarnished. Was that Pazuzu? Disembodied Pazuzu that put like long like boob and penis cones on Mary and then made them bloody, or what was that?
I don't think so. I think it was just a statement they were making and trying to connect a current dissatisfaction with the Catholic Church with a potential demonic possession that they're going to play off as just somebody protesting the church.
Okay, so it's another
a red herring,
another cog in the machine. Yeah,
another 3 a.m. hot dog in the microwave.
Just another one added to the pile. This is some house party. A famous actress, a director, a priest, and an astronaut. What the hell is happening here? It sounds like a bar joke.
It was very, very much a mixed bag.
Yeah, I just don't know what kind of like what's the sales pitch on this house party? Like, how do you get an astronaut and a priest there? And I don't know.
When you're a famous drunk director, you get all the fun people.
I guess you do. Yeah. They found Demi's mother dead 2 days after she died in her house, but she was in the hospital. I'm confused. Can you explain to me what happened?
No, I was worried about the same thing. I feel like the priest had the wrong story, or like they didn't want to say she was in a facility, so they lied saying she was found in her house. I don't know. I thought the same thing, but I thought there had to be some reason behind it.
Yeah, I was wondering, and I thought it was a long shot, so I didn't run with it. But I was wondering if Demi was being victimized himself by some psychological demonic gameplay, where he never was in a psych ward.
Good point.
I wasn't sure, but that's the beauty of the movies. They don't explain this kind of shit to you. Hey, let me make a point here, Bob. I might also go piss on my mother's carpet and curse the guests to die if I'm trying to sleep and they're singing show tunes with the piano priest.
Honest to God, I grew up in a house with parties, and I was always upstairs, pissed off at how loud it was and how loud it got. More it got, the more they drank.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's
so
right.
I never thought to do that, but my God, that'd be so smart.
It would, rather than being pissed off, you make sure they're pissed on.
Exactly.
Reagan's torture from the old hospital machines is just so hard to watch for me.
Oh, really hard to watch, especially as a parent. Like watching the mom cringe, I'm like, I can only imagine. Why is she even watching this shit?
No, I couldn't. I don't know if I could be in the room unless it's for emotional support. Like if Reagan could maybe see that
right.
there.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, there's pins and needles and she's strapped by the chin to a thing that's like making banging sounds and like zooming around her head.
And watching the blood pulse out of the thing like that. Oh
yeah. Oh God,
that was
horrifying. So, thank God for modern medicine, huh?
I guess.
I thought there was great chemistry between Kinderman and Karras. So the lieutenant, homicide detective, and Karras. Their back and forth was so contentious but respectful.
Right. It wasn't like you've mentioned before, like how certain conversations are too quick to be realistic. This one just had the right cadence to it, I thought.
It had the right it had the right pace. It moved at the right speed. And Karras and Kinderman have a beautiful balance of intellect and respect. They want each other to know that they are a chess player as well. But they do it in such a way that neither can really be offended by the other person's words. And then Kinderman comes out with the weird, like, you want to go to the movies? My wife is boring.
Yeah, that was great.
And I was like, this is awesome. Like, I just love these two. I just want them to interact more, The famous Georgetown staircase wasn't famous then, but it is now.
Yeah.
That obviously is the one where 2 deaths take place, and it really does exist. I mean, not that they build the set, but that is something you can go to if you so desire. You can go look at those stairs. I never found it to be such an attraction that I'm going to head to like weird parts of New York to see, but it is there. Where am I? I heard Jason Miller didn't know the puke was coming, which we mentioned already. Karras's endless reflection in the audio studio. There's another great moment of cinematography.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's almost a moment of okay. So here's how I took it. I use the word poetic sometimes. This is him in the audio studio deciding that he truly believes this girl is possessed, which means that heaven and hell, evil and good, really are factors, and he's reflecting on himself and where he's at in his priesthood journey, and there he is in sequence, like you're at a Men's Warehouse looking in the 3 mirrors and you see an endless version of you. He sees it, and it's like 7 of him, and it's a reflection of himself, and it's just I took it that way. I don't know if that's how they meant it, but it just spoke to me, and I loved it.
Very cool. Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I think it's a very cool interpretation.
Thanks. Was this the first instance of the tape being played backwards?
Oh, you know what? Probably not, but probably the first time it was famous.
Okay, because like it makes me think about Black Sabbath.
Right. And that was late 60s, I think.
Okay.
Or was that early 70s? Shoot.
I thought it was 70s. Yeah. I'm not sure. But the old tale is that if you played Black Sabbath's like debut album backwards, that it would give you demonic instructions or some shit like that, right?
Well, there was the Beatles album too, played backwards, right? That was
Oh, okay. Well, that would be 60s then. Yeah, so this isn't the first.
Well,
the first
might,
song.
it might have been the 70s Beatles though. I'm trying to think. Anyway,
I don't know. If you know, email us at worstmovieevermade at gmail.com.
Yes,
let
please
us
do.
know. The horrifying help me on Reagan's skin cannot go without mentioning.
No, not at all. Unfortunately, it reminded me of Hellraiser.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously they stole it and it wasn't as good.
Right, exactly.
And they come in with that really high pitched violin again, and it's the moment like that violin makes you hyper focus for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And they zoom in and they understand how that high pitched violin it makes you, it gives you tunnel vision on what you're looking at directly in the middle of the screen, because you can't look at or think about anything else because the violin is forcing you in the direction that you're looking. I don't know how it has that effect, but at least for me, I'm zoomed in on her skin saying "help me" as the violin is forcing me in at all angles. I can't escape left or right because the violin is just making me shudder in one direction.
Yep.
And my God, this movie is just fan-fucking-tastic. Can you tell that I like this movie?
I can tell.
The streetlight fog shot, so cool. I mean, it's the title.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's the title picture of the movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, I want that on a shirt. It's just so cool.
It's very cool.
I'm thinking maybe if you're the priest performing an exorcism, no brandy before the exorcism. I don't know.
I've had my share of liquor before things, and it never ends up well.
It's never good, and he ends up dead. So let that be a warning to you. Maybe that's why, like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street is so against alcohol. They ran with the ball that Exorcist dropped here.
So not to force a South Park reference, but was Sheriff Bar Brady on South Park always drunk, or was that just his voice?
I think that's his voice. I've never thought about him being drunk all the time, but maybe he is. I don't know. I wish we had a third person who was like such an archive for South Park knowledge with us today that can help us in that field, but they're dumb and stupid and not here. So, I said it already, but cool levitating bed effect.
Oh yeah, and levitating Reagan effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
More demon face. This time it's on Reagan's face. I wanted to highlight this one because she is like convulsing on the bed, and the shadowing on her face makes it so that they can transition to Pazuzu's image.
Yeah.
In like kind of a flat, not in the same one frame flash. It might have been a few frames, but it comes in and out, and it's almost beautiful for being so terrifying.
I heard that the Pazuzu image was the same face as the girl who did the voiceover.
I heard that too. I forgot I heard that, but now that you say that, I remember that.
That's so awesome, in my opinion. That's so freaking awesome. I think
it's really, really cool.
That's brilliant.
Okay. Another head rotation. This time with an even scarier face.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yep.
I mean, there are so many moments in this movie that became pop culture iconic.
Yep.
Now she's levitating, even cooler. I said, you mentioned, no chance in hell I'd be sitting on that bed with my back turned to Pazuzu.
Yeah.
Karis does this, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I love the moment where I don't know how to interpret it, and I'm okay with that. there's like a howl at the moon moment where Reagan is like clawing at the sky in the bed.
Yeah.
And the light coming through the window seems to be coming from nowhere. And the statue of Pazuzu that is at odds with Mirren in the beginning is there with a big like snake dick and like the dog face and like all this wings and all this crazy shit. And she's like, I don't know, just like begging it, you know, and it made me shudder.
Totally.
I want to know how you think Mirren died.
It feels like it had to be heart related because why else is he taking medicine? Blood pressure.
Right.
You know what I mean? Blood pressure, heart. He's supposed to be old. I mean, fun fact, he was actually not old. Yeah.
He's in his 50s, right?
They made him up. I want to say he might have been in his 40s or 50s. Yeah, he was not nearly as old as he acted. And not only was he made up old, he acted old. In Iraq, the way he was walking, genius. Absolute genius.
He's fantastic.
He's so good.
If you're a Game of Thrones fan, he is the three-eyed raven. Just for some context.
Gotcha.
Punching the demon seems ineffective.
Yeah.
And a little offensive because you're like doing further damage to the 12-year-old.
Speaking of the 12-year-old, I think a euphemism for masturbation is punching the demon.
Until it pukes peas. I've never heard that.
I just made that up.
Really nice. That's going to go in the audio clip, or in the write-up, rather. Rob, put that in the write-up.
Rob, did you still work here, Rob?
Rob,
I don't think he's hearing us.
Yeah, I don't know. He's probably negotiating terms with the 3 a.m. hot dog people.
Jeez. Okay.
That or he's possessed. Take your pick.
Oh, you know what? This movie does have that effect on people.
He probably saw the demon face and then was like, "Oh my god, the Hat Man is back! I need to go make hot dogs until I burst."
Oh my god, can you imagine?
Demi sacrifices himself. Just super cool way to take yourself out. I don't feel like he deserved death, but this is the best way to prove yourself to your god, I guess.
He lost his mom. He lost his faith. I think it just, it happened.
Yeah, and the God putting him through these trials and tribulations ought to have felt when he came to the pearly gates that he had done the right thing.
Yeah, I think he's right.
Reagan looks okay. Considering what she's been through, Reagan looks great, right?
Right.
And I know I've floated this theory before, but it's like the Airbnb theory. Like, you and 8 of your buddies get completely plastered at your Airbnb, but it better be fucking beautiful the next day, or else nobody else is going to let you rent the Airbnb out. So I'm wondering, when the demon is extracted, does he leave it tidy so that other demons think he hasn't been there before? Or
other demons?
Like why is Reagan so pristine, having been through so much?
I don't know, especially since her mom was actually bruised and scarred from, weeks before.
Yeah,
just had makeup over it. I don't get it. I mean, there's a lot when it comes to demonic possession or anything otherworldly. I feel like they can make excuses or make things up, but maybe because she's so damn young, she heals fast.
That's true. That is a universal truth about humans. But also, maybe the mind forgets, the body forgets. Like, she had no memory.
They never said how long until that scene happened when she left the house.
That's fair.
That could have been a week later.
Yeah, but even a week, right? I mean, she had lacerations. You wouldn't call them cuts,
right?
But yeah, maybe because her mind couldn't remember what had happened to her body forgot as well.
I mean, just considering the priest was there and seemed less shaken than he was the night before, and there was no police presence and police tape, maybe it was more than a week away.
That is a beautiful transition because I'd like to know why there is no legal ramification for two obvious homicides. No idea, because I don't know.
No, I don't know. I don't know the rules of 1970s Georgetown.
I don't either. A very ugly and scary place, I'm sure.
All I know is in the 70s, George W. Bush did not get or got a DUI, and most people didn't back then. For the amount. So basically, like the police action was not as swift and
No.
as it
No,
is now.
He must have been like really all over the road.
Yeah.
He was probably sticking his head out the door and puking peas, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
All right, we got two clips to end the catch-all just because I want you to see it. I want our YouTube audience to know how fucking crazy this movie was.
Got it.
Imagine it's 1973. Let's throw it to our first clip. This one's called Stairs.
When I touch your forehead, open your eyes.
I mean, just terrifying.
Totally.
Absolutely terrifying. The body can't contort that way. So you're wondering if Reagan's in extreme pain. And it's then backed up by the Kool-Aid that comes out of her fucking mouth. And she's bleeding out of the mouth, probably because her body has been broken to do that feat where the demon feels like it's necessary to make Chris McNeil shit herself in the living room.
Yep.
Just terrifying. You want to see one more?
Please.
Let's go for it. This one's called Swivel.
You know what she did? Your canting daughter?
Do you have any fact or no fact information on how they were able to achieve the head turning all the way around? Was it just a model?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a model. I think there's I don't know if it's like Smithsonian or somewhere has the actual head that was used in that sequence. Either way, it was amazing because they were able to transition back from this completely spun around head to the regular head without too much notification. Like you couldn't tell how different it was because the makeup work was so fucking good.
Yeah, and honestly, the hardest part for me to see and believe was that staircase scene. And I think because they had to do a little bit of what I was talking about in The Crow, where he's leaping from building to building and they slow it down so that the frame rate allows for more ambiguity for speed and leaping ability and things like that.
Yeah.
Only they did it way better, and that was 1973. So think about how bad the Crow's effects team was, considering. Just awful. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to mention before we throw it to bad credit names?
No.
Okay. Well, we would normally throw it to Rob's alternate ending, but since he's not here, we don't get to consider what might have happened.
Yeah, I guess we have to just stick this perfect movie with a perfect ending that already has, and just fuck the alternate ending.
Yeah, and fuck Rob too. So bad credit names.
Hey, this is Rob from Beyond the Grave again. Fuck you, Chris. Woo!
Okay, so I don't have a lot here. Unfortunately, there weren't that many funny names, but that's fitting because this wasn't a funny movie.
Blatty.
Yeah, I didn't write it down. The author of the book's last name is Blatty. Sharon, I think of the babysitter.
Sharon?
Sharon, yeah? Was that the babysitter?
I forget her name, but yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Her real name is Kitty Wynn.
Ah, Kitty Wynn. Okay.
Kitty Wynn. It's like when you're, at the arcade and you put 25 cents in there and you get a little stuffed animal of a cat.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, why not? Here's another whimsical name, something that you might hear in like a Harry Potter novel, something of that nature. George Crumb.
Okay, Crumb. All right.
Yeah, he's probably actually. I think there is. You know why I thought of Harry Potter is because there is the Victor Crumb.
Oh, okay.
No wonder. Bus Knudsen.
That's a good name.
Bus Knudsen.
He sounds English.
Yeah. He sounds like he's either a tea sipping, rugby guy that like could knock you out, or he makes whiskey deep in Tennessee.
There you go.
Josh Wiener. Just never good. I'm sorry to all the Wieners out there, but another shout out to 3 a.m. Josh Wiener.
All the Wieners out there.
All the Wieners out there. Oh man. Okay, and lastly, Jerry Wonderlick. It's the Tootsie Roll Pop mascot.
It makes you wonder, like.
It does. All right, let's compare the movies, even though we're not comparing any movies, but I'll just throw it to the bumper anyway. All right. Best of its kind, plus 40.2, and best of its kind. So, way to go, Exorcist. Not surprising in the least. We both won this pitch because Rob wasn't here, so he didn't win the pitch. Haha, Rob.
Exactly. 10 stars.
And got 10 stars.
That's right.
I wrote dialogue was super good.
Super good.
Production, best production, casting. Absolutely. Hit the nail on the head.
Yep.
What's complimentary? Man, it's all complimentary. I wrote it's very complimentary.
I like your alliteration on the priest, the badass brother of something.
Yeah, the boxing, beer drinking badass brother of the cloth.
I like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Me too. Thanks. Acting, awesome. Just super good.
It was super good.
Burt Denning, maybe not. And then for like an opposite of demerits section, I wrote great job. So scary.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally. And I as a fan of laughable horror, this genuinely scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. And then I saw it as an adult, and it still scared the shit out of me. So that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that this succeeded in all forms.
There is not a person on earth who can watch this and not feel affected. And if you can, then you're either Jeffrey Dahmer's twin brother or you're lying.
Right.
So there's that. I'm just going to speak my piece. Go to theworstmovieevermade.com. We've got the domain. It's an awesome one. It's got everything you need, all of our social links, our email. You need to email us, people. Just shoot us a fucking email. Make fun of us. Make fun of Rob, especially, because he's not here. And he's probably eating a bunch of fucking hot dogs. Just like, I don't know, smacking his hot dogs against other hot dogs that he's planning on eating a little later. I don't know what he's doing.
We need suggestions, people. We need movie suggestions. We're several seasons deep, and we need suggestions.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty more out there, but we want to know what you want to hear us make fun of, you know? And you get priority if you email.
You do. We'll read it on the air.
We will. We have in the past. We will again.
We will, if we actually get something.
Yeah, for real. All right, check out our TikTok. Bob's most recent trailer. I gotta say, Bob, phenomenal. Such a perfect compliment to the movie because it's maybe our best trailer ever. It's maybe the best movie we've done so far.
Well, it's a good movie, and the only way I can make it funny was to make it look like another movie that could be just as good using the actual footage in the movie. So,
hell yeah!
Bravo to The Exorcist for having usable clips that I could make something totally different with.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. It really looked like a rom-com. Check it out. I don't want to ruin it.
Gotcha.
All right, people. Bye, Rob.
Bye.